Hi there. Today I'm going to talk about the fake news story of what the Israeli defense minister said in towards Pakistan. That was a story that was circling around Twitter and other parts of the internet. They made mention of it on CBC. Not a very big story, but I did watch a little bit of it. Basically, what the gist of it was, if Pakistan send ground troops to Syria on any pretext, we will destroy this country with a nuclear attack. Forgive the grammar. That's not my grammar, it's their grammar. It sounded rather terrible, but I guess the translation over to English, their grammar doesn't exactly go along with it. Anyway, the Israeli defense minister, his name is Avigdor Lieberman, and he actually had quite the busy day because he was in discussion with French officials over a UN Security Council vote. Evidently, this vote that's coming up, or could be coming up, before the Obama administration finishes up, could be detrimental to Israeli interests. Anyway, so this fake news, you have to take things into a bit bigger of a perspective. There are other things going on other than a vague threat from Israel towards Pakistan. What the connection between Pakistan and this UN Security Council vote would be, I don't know. But anyway, what Pakistan's defense minister said was Pakistan is a nuclear state too. So that would imply that they're capable of firing missiles back at Israel. Well, we all know the Israelis have the most sophisticated nuclear arsenal in the whole region. Definitely not going to say on the planet, because that might not be true, but definitely within the region they have the most sophisticated weapons. This story supposedly was fake from the Israeli perspective. They say they never said that, but there's a lot of baiting that goes on in the real world with real politics and real military aggression. Quite often, countries say things because it's kind of like countries like North Korea, China, Russia, the United States, is that there'll obviously be people who are a little bit unhinged. They don't have a balanced personality, like Kim Jong-il, for example, when he was alive, who are people of power. And those kind of people, you would wonder, well, why would you need someone like that in a position of power? Well, you do need them because you need people to take you seriously, and that when you say things, that there is the possibility it could get carried out. Therefore, you're not just some pushover and gonna, take any old insult or slur or whatever towards you and do nothing about it. But, of course, these unhinged political leaders, they have to have their restraints as well. They can't just willy-nilly go along doing whatever they want, whether it's themselves that have the restraints or their power that has the restraints. Like, they don't have absolute power to do what they want. I had heard that Kim Jong-il, for example, seemed as though he had an unbalanced personality, but in real life he was relatively normal. I'd heard that from a documentary that's no longer available on YouTube, so I have no idea if that's actually true or not, but it sounds kind of legitimate, I guess. He's probably just bipolar or something, or was before he died. Anyway, the news site that brought this information to light was called AWD, supposedly well known for being a fake one. As I've heard from other people reporting on this, they've never heard of it before, and neither have I. A lot of these websites just pop up out of nowhere. Maybe they've been around a while, but I never heard of it before. So there's that. Israel wants the French Jewish people to come back to Israel. That's what the defense minister Avigdor Lieberman had asked for, because he wants to keep them Jewish. He wants their lineage to stay Jewish, and he doesn't feel as though France is their home. He feels as Israel is. Whether he actually means that or not, I have no idea. But this whole Security Council vote, he somehow tagged it along with the Alfred Dreyfus trial and wrongful accusation of treason. That happened like 115 years ago. Okay, he was Jewish. Okay, he probably didn't commit treason or cowardice or whatever you want to call it. But a lot of people got blamed of that in those times. And the most common punishment for that was being put up against the wall against the firing squad. That's just what happened. Because he was Jewish does not mean he should get any privileges or be brought about in a brighter light. Plenty of people were wrongly convicted, particularly in the French military, of things they didn't do. And let's forget about them and remember Alfred Dreyfus, because he was Jewish. And the Israeli defense minister goes further than that, and he says that, what does he call it, the tribunal against the people of Israel, because French officials want to hold a Security Council vote on how the whole situation over there is being dealt with. What all that entails, I don't know. I haven't researched it enough. I kind of wanted to just get this video on and going. But evidently Alfred Dreyfus was an artillery officer, and he was accused of treason and later exonerated. So, like, this beating of the war drums from Israel over something that was really inconsequential and happened so long ago, they should not be able to, dig up the past like that. 115, 120 years ago is a long time ago. A lot of things have changed. And the thing about Israel is they're very good at tying things up in red bureaucratic tape. They prevent things from happening. They continue with the abuse of the Palestinian people. Okay, they're enemies, and there most certainly are Palestinian people who are like Hezbollah and all those other sort of factions that are vicious people. But there are also a lot of people who are just unfortunate to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and things may never change for them, and that's, that is sad. And the thing is, kind of to rope Israel in with kind of like a North Korea, kind of like a China, to a lesser extent like Russia, is that they have great potential to become the new Nazi Germany. They regard the Palestinian people and all the other countries in that area as being inferior to the Israelis. And the Israelis feel threatened by these other countries, and they want to attack them first. They did so in the Six-Day War, and they were successful, and they nabbed some territory and really humiliated like countries like Egypt, Syria, and all those other ones. But who says they want to stop there? They want to be the only power in the Middle East that has any significant influence on anything. I mean, Saudi Arabia is more or less in the pocket of the United States, so they're not really too much of a threat, although they do barbaric things on a daily basis, like beheadings and lashing of women and stoning women and all those sort of stuff. And it's like, okay, so we'll put a blind eye to that, but because someone in Palestine is trying to, throw rocks at Israeli defense forces, therefore let's demonize the Palestinians. No, look, I try to be fair. Like, I figure Israel has a right to exist. They did kind of steal the land off the Palestinians, but I'm under the belief that if you can't defend your territory, it's just the rule of nature. Someone else stronger, bigger, more powerful than you will come along and take it from you. That's your own weakness and your own failure. That's kind of a shitty thing to say, but it really is the truth. So I think Israel does have a right to exist because they conquered that land off of the Palestinians, with the help of the British, of course, which is a whole nother topic altogether. So there's that. But I also wanted to talk about the importance of fake news. Some people go, oh, it's a curse, it's nothing but evil, it's always wrong information. It misleads people into believing that we're imminent to a nuclear attack. There could be nuclear war. World War III is right around the corner because of all this and all this other stuff. It doesn't matter if it pops up on Twitter or on Facebook or on Google or even on the news like on CBC or whatever. The fact is, we are always in that kind of situation because there's just too much money and too much profit to be made, too much resources to grab for other countries. And you may go, well, America is the one going around in the Middle East trying to secure all the oil fields, and a lot of people beat their chest about that. They like the simplistic, dumb answers when it comes to everything. They don't really think outside the box. They just like to think they're right. I, on the other hand, can change my opinions based on new information. And I like to think of things from a little bit of a more broader perspective. There are many countries that hate other countries for all kinds of reasons. And they don't tell us them on social media or on news stations because it'd take a long time to explain. These things happen over decades, and even in the case of Israelis, hundreds of years. And you can't just tell this story over, a 15-minute segment on the news. And even if you could, what if someone didn't watch it? What if they have to watch it again next week? Are you going to keep telling the same story over and over again? If you really want to know about it, go to school. Or at very least Google it, and you may get a vague idea of what's going on. But going to school is the better place because then you'll get somewhat solid facts. It will be a biased perspective depending on where you are in the world or what country you're learning it from, what language you're speaking as you're reading about this sort of stuff. Because everyone has their own spin on global affairs. And there's just too much information out there. It has to be simplified and kind of pocketed into easy to digest, easy to understand quotations. And this fake news thing, we need fake news. It keeps the local populace intellectually stimulated. I think the news goes a lot further than it should do because people are simple-minded. They can't figure out complex problems, and it is very difficult when the information is not available. But should it be available? Should it be on Google? How could you trust it? How could you know that that's not fake news in itself? I made a video on why I thought the Russian ambassador being assassinated was a fake video. And I got all kinds of hate messages like you would not believe. I can handle that. That doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I'm flattered they even watched my video in the first place. But it just goes to show you that people are choosy about what they want to believe is fake, what they want to believe is real, and you can't challenge their beliefs without receiving untold hostility towards you. And these people, they just don't want to accept reason. Like, I'm perfectly capable of accepting an answer that contradicts my own if someone knows more about the subject than I do, and I happen to, well, I don't want to say because I agree with them, but because their story sounds palatable. Not because it sounds dogmatic and it's rhetoric, and it just sounds, something about it doesn't sound right. It sounds like they're trying to trick you by using a biased perspective of things, and they leave out things they don't want to tell you, and you have no way of quickly learning about this sort of stuff. They're like, you'd be surprised. You Google anything, like ask it a specific question, and it may not give you a straight up answer. You figure it would. You figure you could just go ask Google any question and it'll tell you the answer right away, but it doesn't. And even if it did, like I said before, could you really trust it? Do you know it's the real thing? A lot of people don't. It is very difficult to know these sort of things unless you spent a lot of time in school, or you were there firsthand, or that's the country you came from, or whatever. The thing is, what I want to get at with the Israeli thing is that they're being crybabies. You can't say every time a Jewish person is being persecuted, wrongfully or rightly, whatever, you can't say it's an attack against Israel as a country. It's an attack against all Jewish people. Because they've been beating that drum for a good solid 80 years. We're all sick of it. It's unfair, and it's nothing but red bureaucratic tape. They don't want people to ever question them, and they've dumbed it down so hard that it's completely ridiculous. They just think us goyim are stupid, and that we're just going to believe them. And to an extent, they're kind of right, because there are a lot of stupid goyim who do believe this kind of crap. I am not one of those kind of people. I have my own opinions on things, and I don't get told what to do or what to think so easily. There's no doubt about it that this nuclear threat from Israel was intended to be fake. Because had it been real, nobody would have heard of it. It would have just happened. Like all of a sudden, on all the news stations, on every platform of social media, it would be Israel has launched a nuclear weapon against Pakistan. That would be the news. There would be no saber-rattling threat beforehand. They may have said this behind closed doors, that they would launch a nuclear weapon against Pakistan if they sent in ground troops. Regardless, Pakistan wouldn't send in ground troops into Syria anyway. It's just, it doesn't sound like something they would do. There's a lot of mechanisms that prevent countries from sending in ground troops, occupation forces, and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, for somewhat good reason. There are very few countries that can actively be aggressive towards other countries as far as dropping bombs, firing missiles, sending in ground troops, all that sort of stuff. No country can just up and do it. This stuff takes time. So yeah, I really hope this Security Council vote goes against Israeli interests, because there's no doubt about it, Israel is the bully of that particular area. They're the wealthiest, they got the best military equipment, a lot of the countries around them are suffering. Iran is one of the bigger military powers in the region, and they are quite inadequate in a lot of ways. I hear it's a beautiful country, but you know, it is a military dictatorship. Not quite so obvious as like a North Korea, for example, but it's not a whole lot different. So anyway, fake news is necessary to stimulate the minds of the masses, to keep people thinking, like, in the perspective of what could possibly be going on, the mentality of behind closed doors. Because, you know, just having an understanding of the mentality of what military leaders and politicians do behind closed doors isn't going to threaten their power, but it's going to keep the tinfoil hat man, the guy living in his parents' basement. It's going to keep people who watch the news, old people, young people, whatever. It's going to keep them intellectually stimulated, but in a way that they're not capable of doing anything about it. They may feel content going, yeah, I wrote a post on Facebook demonizing the Palestinians because of blah, 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 or this, that, and the other. But you didn't really do anything. It's their internet. They don't want your post to become popular. They don't want people to watch it. It's going to get forgotten about real quickly. It's this dogmatic rhetoric that they pound home every day that is the one that hangs around. That's the stuff that they want people to see. And it's not good news that gets popular. It's usually the news that they want people to hear that gets told. Very rarely does anything go viral unless it is stupid, or if it's bent towards the will of the global elite. The military leaders, the politicians, the wealthy businessmen, all those sorts. And quite often, news that contradicts what they have to say is ignored or forgotten about quickly. They have such a strict control over the internet. It's like Stalin's Soviet Union, except with a bit of comedy. That's all it is. You're not exactly going to get put up against the wall and shot, but you will be put in a corner and forgotten about quite easily. And that happens to most people because you're either going with the flow of whatever the news outlets are telling you to think, or you're against it, and people go, oh, well, we don't want people getting that opinion, so we'll just put them in the corner, send a few trolls at them to talk to him in a derogatory fashion so that he becomes quiet or loses interest in his opinion, or the story moves on, or whatever. So there's quite a bit going on with these fake news stories, and they're not anything new. It's the last month or two that they've been brought up in this kind of light, but you can expect more of these types of stories to happen, and they may or may not exactly be fake. That threat probably was made by the Israeli defense minister. People just don't understand that that kind of talk always happens in the political world, in the military world. It's a big, gigantic game of chicken. Anyway, yeah, I guess that's all I got to say for now. Yeah, have a good one.